Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to thank you for coming and watching our series, our Black History series, where we are interviewing outstanding people in our community that have paved the way for other individuals to be successful in this lifetime. Please tune in, and we got some great questions. Me and my frat brother, Brother Collins Petaway III, we are going to bring you some outstanding interview with a outstanding woman. I'm going to let him tell you more about her as he get ready to bring her in shortly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Marshall. Good evening to everyone again. My name is Collins Petaway III. I'm excited and elated to bring tonight our guest as we continue our Black History Month series. We have with us Dr. Constance Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks, good evening to you.
Good evening.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. And of course, first of all, just thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you taking the time to just, have a little conversation with us. And of course, first thing, just like to always ask, if you don't mind, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure, I'd be delighted. Well, I am the oldest child of the late H.D. Smith Jr. and Geneva Glover Smith here in Selma. I was born and raised on Philpott, next to what I thought, and it may not be, but I thought it was the original Ebenezer. It may be when you go back in history, there was another one before that one, but my house was right next door. And I used to sit on the steps and watch the people go to church. And they'd say, be hiding my bottle behind my back as I watched them go to church. But I lived on Philpott before my father and mother built a home on St. Philip. So I grew up in Selma. I started kindergarten when I was 3 at Lutheran and went from K through 12 on that block of land over there on Green Street and Lawrence, and didn't know anything K through 12 but that block. My first public school experience was going to college at UAB in nursing. Of course, my parents were both college educated, so I'm not a first generation. Actually, I'm a third generation college person. And my father finished from Atlanta College in mortuary science. So I laugh now. I said, oh, he was a Morehouse man. He didn't even know it. But he finished in mortuary science. And my mother was a Hornet, Alabama State, finished in education. But she thought she wanted to be a nurse and went to Grady and stayed about 2 weeks. When they put her in the emergency room, she came home. She discovered that was not for her. And of course, as I was always told, I was named after a nurse. Now, I'm not sure how my mother felt so comfortable to name me after one of my daddy's nurses, but I was named after a nurse and never wanted to be anything else but a nurse. I can remember taping up my dog's tail when it got cut, and people kept trying to tell me I needed to be a veterinarian. Well, I'm not animal friendly. I'm people friendly. So I kept telling them, no, and not that. I wanted to be a nurse, and I have never deviated from that. In these 47 years now, I've been a registered nurse.
That's awesome. And I know, obviously, we come from a long line of registered nurses and healthcare professionals as well. And of course, one thing we're talking about is, Black history, and we're talking about our history and the culture. And so, can you sort of kind of talk about as far as how were things for you growing up as a, young Black woman in healthcare, and how was the culture back in the day?
Well, I grew up in the 60s, 70s, 60, 53, 50, and I can remember hearing my mother, your mother talk about a lot of things, and it was very segregated at that time. I may have been the second or third class, integrated class at UAB when I went to school in 71. Now, I remember the Bloody Sunday incident. because I can hear the dogs howling and hear the sirens. And as I have learned in later years, my father was part of the people picking up people in the hearse, because we didn't have ambulances. I know you all can't believe that, but there was no ambulance service.
Wow.
The funeral homes transported people, and he picked up people and transported them to the hospital. Your grandmother was on maternity leave, and if you could ever get her to tell you that story, every time she tells it to me, I'm just, it raises the hairs on the back of my neck.
She had just had my mom.
Yeah, how she left the baby and went to the hospital to see what help they needed. And so our family has been involved in the struggle ever since there was a struggle. And your grandfather was a part of writing the letter to ask Dr. King to come. So it's in our DNA. When I had to have I tell the story about having to have my physical to go to college. It was still doing the colored door, back door event. And right now on Broad Street, where that funeral home is, across from the drugstore on Broad and First Avenue, the doctor's office was there. And he had a colored entrance and a white entrance. Wow. The white entrance was in the front, the colored entrance was in the back. And I had to go in to get my physical in the colored entrance. Now, ironically, when I got to school, guess who was my classmate? His daughter. And so we became friends in college. And I could ride. I didn't have a car then. I could ride up with her. But when we got to Selma, we couldn't talk to each other. Only once we got to Birmingham. And so that was just the way it was. It wasn't too long before I started nursing school that University Hospital had integrated its units up there, because in Selma, I understand, and I remember 2 hospitals, and I remember the 3rd hospital over by where your parents live. That was the white hospital, but we had Good Samaritan and Burwell, and so we had separate hospitals. And when there was surgery to be done, if it was something that we didn't have the capability, they would take us to the white hospital so that the surgeon could do the surgery, but they would put them back in that hearse and bring them back to the hospital before the anesthesia wore off, so that the colored nurses could take good care of the people.
Wow. See, I didn't even know all of that.
Yeah, that's deep.
And I think about that all the time. That's why I asked that question, especially considering doctors, nurses, you all are having to care for these people during a time when you weren't even appreciated for the color of your skin. That's heavy.
I learned a long time ago from a seasoned nurse that as I was a young nurse at University Hospital, she said, no, they call us Miss and Mr. and we don't allow them to just call us nurse, because we have a name. And so, that was a way of getting around calling you by your name, was to just call you nurse. And she was a LPN, been there for years, but she took me under her wing and taught me a few things about surviving in that hospital. And so for that reason, you never look down on somebody who's not necessarily at the level you are, because they have wisdom over the years that can provide much beneficial information and guidance for you.
That's awesome. That's
definitely. First off, just for me, just something I want to get off my chest. I'm a product of Concordia College, Selma. So it's definitely good to meet someone that actually went through the school system that Rosa Young put together earlier in life for Lutheran African Americans could attend school in Selma. And honestly, I've met a few, but it's definitely a treat to kind of connect the dots and be proud of people like yourself who paved the way for me to be able to get an education at Concordia College Selma.
Well, so I didn't know that about you, so I am so excited. because I started, as I said, at 3 in kindergarten, and
Yes, ma'am.
the K through 8 was Trinity Lutheran, but it was
Right.
on the same property over by that gym and what have you. And then across the way was
Mhm.
the high school and junior college. And so when you were on the K through 8 side, you'd be looking across. Ooh, one day I'm gonna get over there with the big people, you know. And the big people were over at Alabama Lutheran Academy because they had dorms, and people would
Right.
send their kids here to Selma in the 8th grade, to away from a negative environment, to send them here so that they could be protected and be educated. So we always had access to diversity on the education side because the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod used that as a teacher training. So they
Mhm.
would send white teachers down. So I had exposure to white teachers over at Lutheran in the
Oh, I
parochial
didn't know that.
system. Yeah. Yeah, and once they converted it from a junior college to a 4-year, then of course the name changed to Concordia, initially Concordia Selma, and then to
Mhm.
Concordia, Alabama. And
Right.
I had the privilege of serving as a national alumni president for 3 times. I said, okay, you all keep putting me in to help me get it right. But I had the honor of being the national alumni president. And I want to tell you, I knew Dr. Rosa Young. I can see her now, a short woman walking across that field. Now, I had no idea and maybe she didn't, the power and the influence of this
Yes.
quiet woman. I remember her so well, and I had no idea because I was I was 4th, 5th, 6th grade. She was the little lady from over there in the dorm, the Rosa Young dorm, and
Yes.
I didn't know. And I lived across the street from Reverend Hunt, who was the
Mhm.
quote principal. And I remember the time that Dr. King was speaking at First Baptist, and we decided in the school, all of us, I was in high school then, that if we all left together, they wouldn't put us all out. And so we all left campus and walked together down to First Baptist. And of course, when we did get back, Reverend Hunt gave us a tongue lashing, but nobody got put out of school. So I actually got to see and hear Dr. King. But I can remember that. I might have been, I don't know if I was 9th grade, but we were hanging with the big kids, the big kids was
Gotcha.
going. And so I was going. And of course, I lived around the corner by that time on St. Philip. And so I walked to school, but I thought it was some mystical and magic about being able to stay in the dorm. And what was it over there in that cafeteria? Because they wouldn't let us eat in the cafeteria, because we were the locals. So we couldn't. And so I just thought it was something magical. And they had a bond that was just, you're talking about unbreakable? They
It,
had a
it, it was
bond.
it was always like that. Like even when I was in school, it was more of a family environment. I still have a bond with all of my teachers, and I appreciate Rosa Young for going along with her dream and even being a Black woman. We're in the age where Black women are doing hysterical things, and even during that time frame where Black men were belittled, a Black woman stood tall and created a school and environment
A
for
little
people like
short
myself
woman
to be
too. A
educated.
little short woman. And
Well, sure.
if you haven't ever seen the Rosa Young story, there are
Yes,
copies of that. I know if you finish school that we made all y'all watch it. I know
yes,
every
ma'am.
time
Most
I got a
definitely.
chance, I ran it. And I made sure that anybody that came to school there could appreciate the historical sweat equity that went into us having the privilege of having that institution. It just hurt my heart for
Man,
it
I'm
to
I'm
go
I'm, I'm
away.
still heartbroken. I'm
But
still
we would not flex our muscle to do it on our own. We kept relying on the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and they have been telling them for years that we're not going to keep funding you. We're not going to keep funding you. But that's when self-empowerment and economic strength comes into play. And they just would not step out there. In fact, when I tried the last rally I tried to stir up, I said, let's just do a mass campaign and send out letters to people. And when the money come in, we'll apologize because we didn't ask for permission. But if we get a couple of million, it'll be all right. And they said, oh, no, we have to ask permission. Well, when you ask permission, guess what happened? They told them no.
That's right.
And so, and then, of course, when you look at the political context of when it closed, it was not in vogue to do diversity, to promote diversity. And you have to think about the historical relevance of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and from whence it came and the ethnicity of the people who were supporting it. And many of the long-termers had died.
Yes.
And so
yes,
there may not have been the commitment. And unfortunately, there wasn't enough commitment from those of us who reaped the benefit to save it. I'm sad every time I pass Broad Street, it hurts my heart.
I can believe that it definitely puts a damper on my spirit because that school made me the man who I am today. Man, we done got into a whole it's some history lessons going on here.
Well, you know, I was very fortunate to.
I've just been taking it on my leg.
I was very fortunate to start the nursing program there before it closed. Yeah, and I had done I wrote the first word for that nursing program. Got it launched, got it nationally accredited. And we were able to graduate 2 classes of students. The first one had 4 people in it, and the second one had 8. So I put out a dozen, and of that dozen, I have 4 who have completed their masters and maybe more that I don't know about. And 2 of them are working on their doctorate. So Concordia played a major role.
Wow. Yes, because I got my master's as well, but I got it through the Concordia system. I ended up going to Concordia Portland to receive my master's. And what's crazy, they closed that down as well. So it wasn't just about Concordia Selma. I think the synagogue just wanted to go in a different direction with a lot of schools. But I think they just started with the black belt, which,
And we were the only HBCU in the system of the 10 colleges that they sponsored.
And can I just sort of kind of even
we're gonna let Mr. Petway get in because he's trying.
No, listen, this is a Concordia moment because it is precious. As a Selmian, I love Concordia, and I love.
Your mama is a Concordia alum too.
She is, and how Concordia blessed Selma. And so, I love the history with that, not just with Concordia, you also established nursing programs at Tuskegee University. And so I love.
Well, let me back up now. I didn't start one at Tuskegee. That was another very powerful lady that established that. And that program at Tuskegee was the first baccalaureate program in the state of Alabama.
That's what it is.
It opened up before the University of Alabama. And Dr. Lillian Holland Harvey got permission to establish that program. And then the struggle was to maintain it. And then when Alabama came along about 3 years later, they grew because it was state supported. While in a private HBCU, you got to hustle and raise the money.
Hustle and bustle.
And so here it is, 70-some years later, almost 75 years later, that that program is still only a baccalaureate program. Much to my dismay, I had hopes that we could move it forward and add a master's and a doctorate, but that was not my journey to take. And so I am the former dean of Tuskegee.
The one thing I will say though is, and this is something that I've loved about you, just even period, not even just, from a family perspective, but just period, is your thirst and your willingness to grow these programs at HBCUs. And so one of the questions that I just want to ask, if you can all get into, what is it, or what led you to establish and to also grow these nursing programs at HBCU specifically?
I came from an HBCU, that's all Lutheran was of course, I didn't know that then, but it had a religious background. My mother and father met on the campus of Selma University, and had Selma University had high school when I came along, guess where I would have been? probably at Selma University. But they didn't have a high school at that point. But my parents met there because your great grandfather was teaching typing there. Okay, and so they met there. My mother's father was a moderator in the Baptist church, and so of course he was in and out of there and taught ministers in Otago County for years. So,
right,
you know, I had that religious, I guess, undergird, and it says in the scripture, "To whom much is given, much is required." And in a lot of the things that I competed for or applied for, especially during my 17 years at Auburn, as I applied, especially for the Charles W. Barkley Endowed Professorship, which I was the first woman to get that award, I wrote in that document, "To whom much is given, much is required." And of course, in a secular institution, that didn't go over too well, but that's who I am. And that's what I believe. And nobody changes that about me, because I am evidence that if you pour into somebody else, it blesses you and them. And then my daughter always reminds me that I can't do everything myself. And if I will just create mini me's and they take what I can pour into them plus what they bring to the table, then I have expanded my influence. And so that's been my philosophy. If it's something good, why would I hold it to myself? You know, why? Why not share it with others? Anything, Toastmasters, anything. I told Chi Phi, the nursing sorority, if it's good, you ought to tell somebody else and want them to be a part of it because it's good. And so that's just me. And so anything that I find myself a part of, the Lord opens the door and allows me to enter, then it's up to me to prop that door open and help you come through that door too. Now, once you get in the door, it's up to you to prove that you are worthy to be in the door. Hopefully, I have prepared you before you come through the door so that you are ready when you get there.
That's right. I love that.
Hey man, listen. Hey, listen. You really got that Selma University background. It seems you can't run from it either. It's right there, and it's real raw, and that's what the people need. You know, the people need to know how important your background plays a major part of your well-being. You know,
I'm not ashamed of coming from Selma, as I have traveled all over the continents. I tell people very proudly, I am born and raised in Selma, Alabama.
All right.
Anybody that knows me, know I'm from Selma. And I am very proud of historic Selma. And I am here now to make it with our mayor. We're going to push it forward, and we are going to excel, and we're going to thrive, because this is home. I am what I am because the people of Selma invested in me. Miss Benaru Crenshaw helped me be Miss Selma Bronze. Y'all didn't know Selma had a pageant. A pageant, yeah. And Miss Crenshaw, I guess I must have been 16 or 17, helped me get ready for the Miss Selma Bronze. So I was Miss Selma Bronze, y'all. And Mayor Perkins and I learned to swim down there under the hill at the pool. And Crenshaw, Mr. Crenshaw, Attorney Crenshaw, taught us to be lifeguards. And so I was a lifeguard at the Brown Y. I was one of the few females hanging with Mayor Perkins. You know, I tried not to rescue too many people. I let the guys go on out there and do that. But I did go out there once and somebody grabbed me around the neck like this. And I was like, oh, Jesus. You know, and that's how people who go to rescue people die. Because people take you down. And
because
so
they panic.
Yeah, they panic. And unfortunately, it happens when we try to help people in life. We put ourselves out there to help people. And what they do, they want to take us down.
Listen, we some gems tonight.
You bringing out all the gems.
Funny right now. I can't even say Dr. Hendricks. You are dropping some gems tonight.
I'm old. What can I say?
Hey, you just wise beyond your years. That's all.
I know, and you've seen a lot, and you've definitely been through a lot, which is why I thought it was a no-brainer that we had to speak to you tonight.
I am so honored to have this opportunity to share just a little bit about this Selma girl. Although we say Selma girl, and we know that's not politically correct now, but this Selma girl is so proud to be a Selma girl, because all that I am is because of Selma, Alabama.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. Quick question. We have a few, like 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're not gonna hold your time that much more. But we do appreciate the gems. We do appreciate everything that you're.
Oh, I want to tell you one more thing, and I'm gonna let you ask your question.
Okay. Well, look, hey, this your flow. Go ahead. It's your flow.
When I went to Boston College, I was the first African American to be admitted to the doctoral program at Boston College in '89, and I was teaching at Auburn University when I got admitted to the program. And as I wrote my papers there, one of the professors said to me, "Don't you know English?" And I said, "I did before I got on the highway driving up here. Perhaps I lost it on the interstate, But because I was a faculty member at the Auburn University. So of course I had a little air about me, but they decided that I didn't know English and I didn't really know how to write. Okay, we're gonna learn a few things. But I also experienced prejudice even at Boston College, because I had a statistics teacher who sat in class and my classmates reacted to it, and I just sort of froze because I knew you have to pick your battles. What he said was, it's statistically proven that we don't admit but one of you at a time, because in mass, you are perceived to be a threat. Now, this man teaching this class was the department head. So who was I going to go tell?
Nobody.
Okay. But we were taping the class, with the little cassette tapes. Y'all don't know nothing about that, but the little cassette. Yeah. And so we had the tape, but my classmates reacted. And so we bonded together and decided, you're going to get out of this class. And so it didn't matter what I turned in. They'd make an A, I'd make a B. And that was okay, because I was graduating in 3 years with that doctorate to come on back to Auburn and teach. And there was nothing he was going to do to block that. And so once I had my exit interview, after they had signed my paper that I had earned my doctorate, I shared with them my experience in my first year. Now, this was 3 years later. And they said, "Why you didn't say anything?" My goal was to get out. So the essence I want to share is you have to pick your battles. And timing is everything. Sometimes, when you fight too soon, you lose the war. So I learned to pick my battles and learn that timing was everything. So yes, I am the first African American to be awarded to have earned a PhD in clinical nursing research from the Boston College in Massachusetts.
That is amazing.
And Selma helped me do that, because my dissertation was done with the children in Selma and Dallas County. They filled out my surveys, and that's how I completed my dissertation.
Wow. You really just answered the next question. So it's like I don't even have to ask the question anymore, because that goes to
that is why though. Go ahead, bro, Marshall.
Like, that's so important. Like, we were just wanting to talk about equal and equitable representation, and you just knocked it out the park. Like, I don't even have to ask the question, because you just hit it on the head. How even in your later years teaching at a prestigious white college that's known as Auburn University, who wouldn't even let Black people attend after so long. You go to another prestigious white college, and it goes to show also that, not to kind of be upfront, but I'm just raw like that. All of them aren't bad. All of them aren't bad. All of them aren't bad, because some of them rallied around you and they let you know, like, hey, we're going to get through this. And, right. And believe it or not.
And we are lifelong friends today.
And that's so awesome. Like, that's so awesome that you really kept in contact with them.
My daughter went to Boston with me as well, and we lived in Newton Upper Falls, and she was in a predominantly Jewish school system. But one of the teachers approached her and said, did your mama have you when she was in high school? And is your daddy strung out on crack? And does Alabama have paved schools? Well, once she came home, and she was disturbed when she came home, but a parent called me and told me because the other children in her class was upset about it. And now I had my master's degree when I went to Boston College. So I had to get out of my blue jeans because I had resorted to being a student, and put my suit on and go over to the school to let them look at me and let them know that both her mother and her father had master's degrees. And Alabama had plenty paved roads. And if they looked at some of the other kids in the class, some of them were the ones who came from what we call third world countries who did not have paved roads. So even going, and I just wasn't expecting to fight like that in Boston, because during the civil rights, who was coming down to help us? They were from Boston, right?
They were from Boston.
But as I shared my story when I would come home, people would say, we always heard that about Boston. Like, I never got to go see the baseball team because they told me, don't go over there. They don't treat people nice. And I passed it every day, but I never went because people said, don't go. So I didn't go. And I missed seeing that because I like to do stuff historically. But we had to fight those kind of things, but you have to pick your battles, and you have to know. I got invited to go to University of Maine to speak. And when I got in there, the man kind of sideswiped me and he said, are you a member of the NAACP? I'm like, I didn't come in here to talk about the NAACP.
That's crazy.
I said, at this point, no, but I guarantee you I got plenty of family who are card-carrying members. And so you might as well say yes. And I just don't understand. So it has not been an easy struggle, but you have to persevere. And I have to lean on the 66 books that have brought me thus far. And we talk about the prayers of our grandmamas and our great grandmamas.
Come on with it. Come on with it.
Yes. So my mother was a teacher, and she retired and came up there and stayed while I worked on my data entry for my dissertation. I entered all my data myself, 1,336 questionnaires. And I would spend so much time in the computer lab, the teachers would come back and say, did you go home? So I made a point every day of wearing a different color. Yes, I went home, and yes, I took a bath. And yes, I'm back. But I am going to finish this. And I am going to graduate.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. It's like, it's so wild because the last two questions, you have answered both of the questions without asking, and that's phenomenal. Like, and I'm blown because I'm like, I didn't even get to ask him.
I'm sorry.
The last question was just sort of kind of about being from Selma and what that meant, and you answered it with your testimony, because only growing up in Selma you can be able to carry yourself the way that you have been able to do that. And I even think from Brother Marshall's standpoint, you may not have been born in Selma, but you've lived in Selma long enough, and you've been immersed in Selma's culture to really understand.
Oh, definitely.
Why there's the need to have so much pride to be Yo, I love that. Just me, it just makes me proud. Like,
yeah, like Selma has played, man. Listen, man, I've spent half of my life here. When I came to Selma, I was a young man. I was 17, 18 years old. And I've been here, I'm 32, so I've been here half of my life, literally. And this place has matured me, it's grown me. I've met some of the most phenomenal people in my life that I probably would have never met, because if I would have chose to go another direction, I wouldn't know the people that I know. I wouldn't have gotten a chance to even meet you right now if I didn't choose to come to go to school in Selma.
I didn't know about that Concordia connection. See there?
Listen, I'm green and yellow to the soul. Like
I am too. I am too.
People be, no offense to A&M, no offense to Alabama State, no offense to nobody, but I love my HBCU, and I wouldn't be nowhere without it. Like I've played sports, I've sung in choir, I've been to educational seminars, I've been everywhere, and my school ain't but so big. But I've sat in the rooms with the people who had a 12-block campus.
That's
and
right.
I only have a 1-block campus.
I got the tour in the choir at ALAC, as it was then. That every year, my 4 years of high school, we took one section. We either did South U.S. or Eastern U.S. Out in the Midwest. We were out there and we were wearing afros. And
gotcha.
We didn't have the money to stay in the hotels. We stayed with the parishioners in the Lutheran church. The white Lutherans housed us. We stayed in their homes. And so the little kids, I was sporting my afro, and the little kid came up to me and he was rubbing my hair, and then he touched my face, and because he had never been around anybody that looked like me. So I didn't get upset about it. You just kind of deal with it, because it was an educational opportunity for them.
It's amazing how it's almost like successful Black people is a rarity to the other side.
Yeah.
But we know Black excellence.
Listen,
it's interesting though.
When I went to school, at elementary school, we were still getting used books. So I have a hard time accepting from children today that they can't learn because they don't have this, they don't have that. When we got used books, the Lutheran church, I guess, would send them down when they got new books or something.
I'm a teacher as well.
I'm gonna say you talking to a present teacher right
now. So I just can't accept that, because they taught us with what we had, and they made sure we learned.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a teacher now. I teach at R.B. Hudson STEAM Academy.
I heard you history. I heard it too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but I didn't know about that Concordia connection though. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I got that degree from Concordia. People like Tanya Chestnut were super in my life. Like I remember being a father early in my life, and she was like, "Calvin, it's okay." She was like, "It's okay. Like you gonna make it. You gonna do this. You're gonna be fine." And her and Dr. Hubbard and Dr. Moyo, may God rest her soul, those were, and believe it or not, they were women, Black women. Like they were instrumental in my life during the time where trying to raise a young Black man really wasn't that easy. So I walked into a family environment at Concordia that made me be the person I am to this day. And I'm pursuing other goals. I'm an expiring principal. Hopefully that'll pan out in the years to come.
Come on, though. It's never too late. Keep it going.
No, it's never too late. Listen. I'm gonna run this race as long as I can, because people like you paved the way.
Sister that tells me every time I come back to Alabama, she end up going back to school. So when I came back this time, she's in her doctorate program. She said, "Okay, all right." Every time my husband said, "Every time you come back, I end up going back to school." I said, "Well, that's not a bad thing." She said, but why not? The sky is the limit. And so we excel. There's just so much about growing up here that time won't even permit us to share. But I am just so thankful that you've given me an opportunity. And I just want to quickly say about nursing. Nursing continues to be the most trusted profession in the world. The only time we were not number one was at 9/11, and they voted that the firemen and the first responders. But other than that, it is a nurse. And in my family, my dad has four sisters of I think it's 3 or 4 of them are nurses, and my Uncle Robert was a Navy nurse. And then my mother's sister was a nurse, and her best friends were nurses. So I'm not real sure who planted the seed in me, but I sure got the fever, and I am excited and never look back.
That's funny because I think about that. Chi Eta Phi was like the first Greek lettered organization I had heard of in my life. Chi Eta Phi is the nursing sorority.
Yes. Yes, it is a community service organization. It is not a D9, but it is a professional organization of registered nurses and nursing students. And I was introduced, I didn't know anything about Chi Eta Phi. I was introduced to Chi Eta Phi when I taught at Tuskegee in the mid-'80s. And was accepted on their pledge line back then, but also had the opportunity to go to Africa. And Chi Eta Phi had to make a decision, either to pull me off the line or to have some flexibility and allow me to go to Liberia, Africa for 6 weeks and still stay online. But my assignment was to go to Liberia and find those Chi Eta Phi nurses over there. So I did.
Mm-hmm.
Now I went over there under military rule with the machine gun, and I got in I went by myself. Tuskegee made me grow up. They sent me over there by myself, and I got in a taxi with some names on a piece of paper, and I went told them take me to the Kennedy Hospital, and first person I saw that looked like a nurse. I said, "Nurse." They turned around. I showed them the list, and she took me to the head nurse's office, who happened to be Chi Eta Phi.
Wow.
And the
stories keep coming. Like,
she got on the phone and she called people, and all of a sudden about 10 or 12 of them surrounded me, and they started singing the hymn. And of course, look, I am not even Chi Eta Phi then, because I'm still studying. And they got to sing around me. I was like, oh, okay, all right. But many stories.
Listen,
I don't know when. I don't know when your book is coming out, but somebody needs that. Like, somebody needs that, and because that has definitely filled me up for today. Like, hey man, I just want you to know, man, you're gonna be you and the first 2 acts, like, y'all gonna be hard to follow.
Well, I am so honored. I'm so honored. The time has just flown by, but I am humbled at the opportunity to share with you some of the things I've experienced in these 60 plus years. And I look forward to what the Lord will open up the door for me to do in my next season.
Can I just say that even in this setting, I still learn so much about you. And I think, we of course always talk about things at family holidays and things of that nature, but there's so much you have to share. I'm about to share Denisha's comment because I agree with her. It's time for the book. Whatever we need to do to make that happen.
She's giving me the journal that says my mother's journal, and pretty much said, now write. You got time, now write. And of course, as you can tell, I'd much rather talk than write. So I'm going to use the taping opportunity and tape it and then translate.
The audio book would be great. Like, listen, I love audio books, so I definitely would listen to your audio book. I'm telling you that. I love audio books. Like my iTunes Apple account is full of audio books. Like, I love to read, but if I don't have to.
I know. I had in church in Tuskegee, the young man that's now one of our ministers, youth ministers, said, as a child, he said, they put stuff in those books because they know we won't see it. And he's true. We won't read. So as a people, we have to read.
That's right.
We have to read because they put it in the book, knowing we won't ever open it. So we got to read. We got to read, and we got to write. So I'm honored that I have a copyrighted health promotion theory out there that people are using it for their dissertations.
Wow.
And we've done some other articles and publications, and I just try to help where I can.
Well, I for one am grateful and so thankful that you decided to take time out to just speak with us and to share so much. I don't even think you realize everything you have dropped.
Yeah, she
I don't think you realize it.
No.
You shared so much, just for family perspective, historical perspective, and I think anybody, if you're out there tuning in and you're from Selma and you're hearing this should make you proud.
Yes.
Product of Selma to have any sort of affiliation with Selma.
We definitely appreciate you. I'm definitely glad that I got a chance to sit down with you and talk to you and give you your flowers, so that you can still smell them. And it's truly a blessing that because I'm from here, I've met so many people, and I definitely have to add you to my list of monumental people that are so great. And man, I'm like, I'm a girl dad. I got 4 daughters, and if I had to say for them to meet somebody to follow their dreams, I'm definitely gonna come knock on your door.
Anything Seriously. I can do to help,
I'm definitely gonna come knock on your door.
That.
Most definitely appreciate you.
We just have to
It has been an honor, and I hope I didn't steer you off your script too much.
Hey, listen. This is not about us. The script, listen, one thing I love about a script is it's there for guidance. It's not meant to always follow. You know, it's almost like a lesson plan. It's just there to guide you. It don't mean you always got to stay on the track. But you just right on point. Like you really, like, believe it or not, we really could have just let you go, because once you began to talking, you just started to hit every question one by one, and we didn't even have to open our mouths, literally.
Right. You're right.
Like we could have just sat right here with our arm fold and just hit you with an amen, like here, blue moon, and let you do your thing.
But
for this opportunity.
Of course, like I said, just thank you so much again. We appreciate you. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday. We got some great guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing this until Jubilee. And y'all, feel free to share this Facebook video. We also, it's on YouTube. And so we're going to keep these up for people to always come back and view these and comment on these as well. So, Bro Marshall, I'll let you close us out.
Man, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. We want to definitely thank Dr. Constance Hendricks for blessing us. Like, this is a blessing. A lot of times we take for granted the people that can enhance our spirit and give us a little bit energy. Like, you know what? I got a little bit more energy to run this race just a little while longer. I listened to Dr. Hendricks, and if you didn't get any, if you didn't get any soul food from her, hey man, you need to go back to the beginning and press play once we upload it, and just sit back and take you a few notes. Dr. Hendricks, we thank you. We hope you have a blessed rest of your night. If Omega Chi Chapter, Omega Psi Phi can do anything, we can do anything for you, for your organization, which is the Zetas. If we could do anything to help you all, because you did say that you have a platform as well, we will advertise that on our social media pages. And we hope you all will do the same going forward for us. But we do thank you for your time and appreciation for doing what you're doing.
It's all about us continuing to grow. Remember, we all are still becoming whatever we're going to be. We never cease to become. It's all about us growing.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Be safe.
Yes, ma'am. And you all have a great night. Thank you all so much for watching.
All right, Brother Collins.
Yes, sir.